Hello and welcome back to the Championship Lowdown. I'm Elliott. This is Ollie. Say hello to everyone, Ollie.
Hello, everyone.
So we'll go straight into the preview of this weekend's games. For those of you who are new, I'm a Birmingham City fan, and I insisted on putting us as the top billing this week. My reasoning being that Sky also did the same. We are live on television, probably today as you're listening, potentially yesterday if you're listening on Saturday. But we're playing Leicester away from home, which is one of the most difficult games you'll play all season.
Absolutely. Leicester have had a fairly decent start, and I think they'll be kicking themselves a little bit. That loss to Preston, but obviously Preston then went and backed it up with a win against Ipswich as well. So don't know how much of a bad result that was for them, really. Obviously Birmingham on the other hand, flying high. 2 wins and a draw so far this season, sitting comfortably in that top 6 at the moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think obviously you can go into the ins and outs of it initially. You're the Blues fan.
So this game is a real litmus test for us. This is the first time we've had a league game in probably a year and a bit that we're probably not going to have more of the ball than the opposition. We've had more of the ball than the opposition pretty much every game, other than like when we played Newcastle and Fulham in the Cups. We've had and even against Fulham, I think we had more of the ball than them. We're probably not going to have more of the ball than Leicester. We've signed a lot of pace this summer. We've signed a lot of athleticism, and I think it's for games like this where I think we might actually have to play on the counter, which is new for us. It won't be new for Leicester to play against. So I am quite worried because we haven't been free flowing going forwards, and if we are to sit back, then we might lose even more of that sort of penetration. But then we scored the winner against Blackburn on the counter attack, and when you see Damari Gray and Kyogo Furuhashi running into space, part of me gets really excited. But I am not expecting much. I'd be more confident if this game came after the international break. We've played 2 games in the last few days. We've played Saturday, Tuesday, Friday, while Leicester didn't have a midweek game. So I think we've been a little bit mistreated. And we made 10 changes on Tuesday, and still one of our starters got injured after coming off the bench. So I think we're probably without Stansfield as well, which is obviously a big loss for us, especially in the press. We don't have anyone who can press like him. So I'm a bit worried about this game. I can see a 2-0 Leicester win, if I'm completely honest.
Ever the optimist, Elliot. Ever the optimist.
I usually am, but this one,
I know, yeah. I kind of tend to agree with you, really. I think, obviously, you've alluded to Stansfield being out. It's a big loss for you guys. I think for Leicester, it's about finding the rhythm a little bit this game. It's they've had that 2-1 win over Wednesday, was on the opening day. They obviously just got over the line against Charlton, and then obviously losing to Preston as well. I think they've shown signs here and there. They've shown character, but I think it's about getting a little bit of rhythm, especially at home. I think obviously your side's built on that solid organisation and taking your chances. Really, I think it might be sort of tight affair to start off with, but I do think obviously Leicester trying to get that rhythm with their attacking quality. I think it might be a little bit closer than your 2-0. I've gone 2-1 Leicester, but. I think obviously you've alluded to already the pace in your team. I think that could really trouble Leicester, depending on how they come out. But I do think they might just edge this one.
Yeah, I'm not overly confident, but if we do get a result Friday night away from home at the King Power, I'm all in on us going up this year. I'm all in on us at least being like top seed in the playoffs. Like, I mean, the top teams, Ipswich and Southampton, have not started well. Coventry probably looking like the front runner at the moment. Sheffield United, obviously, they were supposed to be up there. They're struggling. West Brom are losing players left and right. If there's a time for us to go up,
Could be this year. Could be this year.
it could be this year. If we get a result, if we don't get a result, I'll be resigned to 5th or 6th in the playoffs, so that's fine.
I'm sure I'll be watching it closely.
You know, we started very well, and I think Leicester will also be looking at this game as a tough one, but we're not dangerous away from home as we are at home. So we shall see, but we'll move on to Saturday's games and another big one at the top end of the table, which is something I wasn't expecting to say if I'd looked at this game on paper before the season started. It's Stoke versus West Brom. Stoke flying.
Absolutely. I mean, I'd put this down as my match of the weekend, but obviously was overruled by your Blues support. So
just for me to then say we're going to lose.
Yeah, I got a little bit of stick last weekend from the Stoke fans, obviously predicting them to lose. But they've surprised me. They've surprised everybody, I think. Both teams here have got unbeaten records. Obviously, Stoke perfect so far. West Brom not far away from them. They've not been as spectacular as I thought they would have been so far this season. But Stoke have, started like a house on fire. Obviously, wins against Derby. On the opening weekend, and they've shown their attacking intent. I've been really impressed by Sorba Thomas. That signing's been fantastic, and they've been on a roll since that opening weekend. Really, I think obviously West Brom on the flip side, they've shown a bit of character with their performances. Obviously, with a 3-2 against Wrexham, I think it's a tough one to call this. I think obviously both teams are in really good form. Stoke obviously more so. I think West Brom's defence has been a little bit shakier at times, but I think there's goals in this game, and I think the Stoke fans this weekend are probably going to be a little bit happy that I'm going to predict them to win. I'm going to predict them a high scoring 3-2 to Stoke this weekend.
Yeah, I was thinking 2-2. I think both teams. I mean, West Brom were controversial penalty decision away from probably winning that game.
Massively so,
and being also on 9 points, and then we're looking at a 9-point versus 9 points, and I don't think that would have been unfair on either team. So I think these two are both very, very good. I obviously could go either way. I've been massively impressed with both. West Brom, however, supposedly losing Tom Fellows this week. It'd be interesting to see if he plays. And that would be a big loss. Obviously, they'll try and replace him, but for this game, he's out and they don't have a replacement. Then that team squad does look weaker without him. So I'm going to go a score draw, but you could convince me either way that this is a win. One thing I think it will be is a very enjoyable game to watch, which is something Sheffield United fans must be really, really hoping for, because they have not been fun to watch. They play away to Borough, which, look, recent form, this is a slam dunk home win for Middlesbrough, which we all know is exactly how the Championship works, and we'll definitely go like that.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a clash of forms. I mean, Borough, another side, to be fair, who have surprised me. 9 points from 9 as well. Only conceded one as well. Obviously, Sheffield United, what is going on there? You come rock bottom, yet to get a point, lost all 3 games so far. They must be wondering what the hell's going on down there. Middlesbrough so far this season have been really impressive. Obviously, winning away at Millwall and showing that they can put teams away. Sheffield United obviously losing on the opening day 4-1 at Bristol City it set their tone really for an absolute nightmare of a start of the season. They've only scored 1 goal. I know they've just brought Danny Ings in today, like you've already alluded to. All signs to this point to a home win really, and to be honest with you, I'm going to go with that. I can't see anything but a home win. I think Borough's momentum, combined with the struggling at Sheffield United, regardless of the signing of Ings, I think the pressure remains on Sellers here, and I don't see it easy. I think a relatively comfortable 2-0 Middlesbrough win here.
I've just got a feeling Danny Ings is going to score an important goal. I just got a feeling off the bench. He'll only have 10 minutes, and he's going to sneak one in late on. I think for a 1-1 draw. It's just too, like, I've played too much Football Manager to know what happens when you're top of the league and you play against a team who haven't won yet. Like, it's just the Championship doesn't work like this. Borough have been fantastic.
It doesn't.
Sheffield United have been rubbish. Although I don't actually think Sheffield United have been quite as bad as their results suggest. They've obviously been way under par, way under what you'd expect. But I don't think they're one of the 3 worst teams in the division. I don't think
at the moment they are.
I know they say the table doesn't lie. After 3 games, it sort of does sometimes. They're not. I might regret this. They're not going to finish in the bottom 3. They're not going to finish, I don't think, in the bottom 6. But they could
need to start picking points up soon.
They really could be looking at 4 losses from 4. And Ruben Sellers might not make it through the international break, which would be... It'd be extremely funny if Sheffield United are doing worse than Sheffield Wednesday.
It really would.
But you've been... you've been offered the like easiest season of your life to outdo Sheffield Wednesday. You start 0-4. I've just got a feeling they're going to get a result based on nothing but the fact that it just feels wrong for them to be 0-4 this season, this early into the season.
It really does. But obviously they're going into a side who are just winning. And obviously winning and breeds that confidence. It's just the Riverside's going to be a tough place to go for them on Saturday. I think they're going to come away with a defeat. But like you said, it's the Championship, isn't it? They'll probably win 3-0.
Middlesbrough is generally quite a miserable place to go, and I'm not talking about the stadium. We'll move on to 2 more teams who've been disappointing. 2 more teams who don't have a win on the board yet. We go with Ipswich versus Derby. Now, once again, look at this game. You think this is a home win. This is a banker. This is one you put in your accumulator and think, I don't have to worry about that one. Ipswich at home, Derby leaking goals. Match made in heaven, surely.
Again, it's cliche, isn't it? It's the Championship for you. Surely Ipswich are going to start playing at some point. They're still spending money. They're still bringing players in. There's talk about bringing Nunes in from Norwich today, which is a signing and a half.
Yeah, I saw some not too happy Norwich fans on Twitter.
I can well imagine that they're not going to be too happy with that one. He's going to certainly get some stick when they go to Carrow Road. I mean, obviously both teams in this game did Derby leaking goals. If you've already alluded to, that 5 at home to Coventry is obviously Ipswich they've had some tough games. Let's be honest. Coming back into the Championship is always tough, but obviously it's even tougher when you start getting them Saturday, Tuesday games. And I just feel like this game's got to be one of those games where they're both going to be looking at it as a game that's going to be a kickstarter, really. I think obviously the pressure on Ipswich to start getting wins, is going to start getting pretty big soon. Obviously, they need to start proving their credentials about going up. I think particularly at Portman Road, obviously, like I said, I've spoke about them signing somebody else. Said obviously Nunes from Norwich would be a cracking sign, but they'll be desperate to get going. And I think having that home advantage against a team like Derby, who need to tighten up, they desperately need to tighten up. I think they will tighten up here, but I do think Ipswich will edge it, and I've gone 1-0 Ipswich.
I think this will be a bit more comfortable. Ipswich, they haven't started well, but I think they've had some really tough fixtures. Obviously, they played us week 1, probably should have lost. I'm not even talking about the decision. Just like they were the worst team in that game. Southampton, I think it was week 2. Draws, reasonable result, and then obviously lost. Last week was a bit shocking, but I think they've played 3 of the better teams right now, at least in the division. Derby are in disarray. Their defense is just leaking goals, and you look at the goals they concede as well, and they're ugly. The Ipswich are fast. They are technically gifted. Half these players were in the Premier League last season. Like, I don't see a world where Ipswich don't win this comfortably. And I know they haven't started the best, but when both teams are not playing their best, Ipswich should still be much better. If Derby were playing well and Ipswich were playing badly, there's a case for Derby winning. But I think this is like a 3-0 Ipswich. I just I just think, I think that they're going to start playing soon, and I think it probably
Yeah.
starts this weekend.
I thought it had started last weekend, but Preston
well,
surprised us again.
Ipswich have been disappointing, but
Yeah.
that will go on. We'll move on to two teams who are bizarrely on the same number of points, actually, which is Watford and Southampton. Again, one I would not have expected to be saying that about pre-season. Both of us had Watford quite low down our list and Southampton in the top two. But both teams, one win, one loss, one draw. Watford at home. There's potential here for a really interesting game.
I think it's a good measure of where both teams are at. Maybe this season, obviously, was pretty surprised really of how Watford have started. As you've already said, we had them quite low. I mean, they still maybe will finish low, but they've started pretty well. To be fair, fairly middle of the road. As you've said, one win, one draw, one loss. Obviously, winning against QPR looked like a decent result at the time, but then obviously they're getting blown away last weekend. Who knows how much of a good result that was. Southampton losing last weekend against Stoke was a bit of a surprise, but obviously, as we've already spoken about, Stoke have been pretty bloody good this season. I think it feels strangely, it feels like it's quite an evenly matched game, this one. Obviously, Southampton are riddled with quality across the park, and similar to Ipswich, they'll want to kickstart their campaign pretty soon. They'll want to show their promotion credentials. Obviously, Watford are that physical side. They're proving to be quite tough to play against so far this season, and I think it'll be quite a tight game. I think Southampton edge it 2-1. What about you?
I really don't know what to think about this because I feel like my read on Watford was so far out that I now have sort of no idea how good they are. The players they've signed, the ones we had question marks over, I think have all sort of looked pretty decent. Like they look like championship footballers. They look like good championship footballers. And maybe this Watford team is a lot more interesting than I thought. I really don't know. Head says Southampton win like 2-1, 2-0. But I can't shake the feeling that Watford could get a result here and maybe they're actually a dark horse for finishing a lot higher than we thought. They've just looked much better than I expected. Even in a mixed bag of results, I actually think they're probably better than I thought, which it does happen. I'll go with a tight Southampton win, but I'm really not confident in saying that. I think,
like you say, it's similar to the Ipswich situation, isn't it? It's like they've got that side which we know is full of quality at this level, and at some point you would think they're going to click, but the longer it goes without them clicking, does that mean that they're actually going to? And obviously, these other teams who are picking points up, they're going to gain in confidence when it comes to playing these teams. And yeah, I know what you're saying. I think it's going to be a tough place for the Southampton to go there this weekend. And I think, like you say, it's do they pick that point up? Do they pick them points up this weekend? They need to for their promotion credentials. Like you say, we were speaking about it last week, wasn't you? Like these are the sort of games where they can prove they're going to be promotion contenders. And if they go there and win, especially given Watford's relatively decent start, what we thought maybe wouldn't have happened, would be a good result for Southampton.
What I will say is I think both Ipswich and Southampton, if these games came after the international break, I'd be much more confident they're going to win. I think these teams have taken a while to get their business done because they're all waiting on outgoings. Obviously, Southampton have lost Dibbling this week and they're replacing him, but these players won't be ready for this weekend. They've lost a player and haven't got the replacement yet. After the international break, when these players have had some time to get ready, the squad is settled. I think we'll see a much different version of Ipswich and Southampton because their business seems to have taken longer than everyone else's because of the outgoings. If this game's after the international break, I'd be much more confident Southampton winning. But because their squad is still a bit in flux, I'm a bit worried. But they should just about edge it. We'll move on anyway to I put this game in the 6th slot because it felt disrespectful to you to have Hull any lower. But this is Bristol City versus Hull. Hull were excellent last week, I hear.
Yeah, not really. They started off all right. To be fair, they had a couple of chances early in the game where you'd have thought if they'd have taken one of those chances, it'd have been a completely different game. But there was rumours that there was a sickness bug going through the camp. I'm not sure sort of how many players were affected by that. It certainly ruled Charlie Hughes out. There was talk of him actually being linked with the move away again this week, with talk of Palace being interested, but apparently that's been poo-pooed. So apparently he's back in the squad tomorrow. Not tomorrow, sorry, Saturday. Blackburn were outstanding. Full credit to them. They could have scored more, and we wouldn't have been able to complain about it. I thought, hopefully it'll just be a game where you can just kind of go, right, let's forget about that one. We'll move on and look at Bristol City EMAC in that one and try and get something from Ashton Gate. Bristol City unbeaten so far this season. Obviously, they're only a point ahead of us. They've picked up 5, but they've had a decent start. Obviously, blowing Sheffield United away on the opening day was the standout result for them so far.
That result looked much better at the time than it does now. It doesn't look as exciting now.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they look like a fairly well-drilled side, don't they, Bristol City? Ashton Gate's always a tough place to go. We notoriously concede goals against Bristol City. I just think going down there, I think Bristol City will edge it. I've got them 2-1.
Yeah, my problem with Bristol is, like, as you say, they scored 4 on the opening day against Sheffield United. But when I watched those goals back, I was like, okay, there's an absolute screamer in there. I think there was like 2 defensive errors for some of the goals. I was like, okay, they scored 4, but they were sort of gifted 2, and one of them was like a beautiful free kick. Like, you don't score a free kick every week. And since they've only scored 1 in the next 2 games, obviously they've kept it tight at the back, which is, obviously very important. But I do sort of have. It seems weird to say about a team that scored 4 in the opening day that I have sort of concerns about them going forward. And from the bits I've seen of Hull, you guys want to sit and hit them on the counter, especially away from home. So I'm not all doom and gloom about this one. I can see Hull getting a point. Bristol, I don't think score enough goals. I could see this being a 1-1 or a 0-0.
The one thing I will say is obviously we're coming up against Scott Twine again, who had a really poor sort of spell with us. So we know what's going to happen there. We'll come back. He'll ping in another worldie against us. And the thing is, we like to get forward. And last week, it just didn't happen for us. So, I mean, I can't see Jakirovic changing from that sort of tactic. He'll probably go to Ashton Gate, probably attack. We'll probably score. I just think we still look a little bit open for my liking.
Yeah, well, we will find out. Let's hope he scores another worldie, because that free kick was beautiful to watch. We will move on to the team who defeated you last week, and I say defeated sort of underplayers. They smashed you last week, which is Blackburn versus Norwich. This one's interesting because I'd say I was not high at all on Blackburn. I was quite high on Norwich. We watched Blackburn obviously play against us, and they didn't look great, but then they were very, very good last week, and Norwich not started the best, losing Nunes to the local rivals. It could be, they lose this or they don't, or they get a point here. It's going to the international break. I don't think their fans are going to be very happy at all. This is a dodgy one.
No, and they've got identical starts, haven't they? One win, 2 losses each. Norwich haven't blown anybody away so far, and I think that's quite surprising for me. I thought they'd have been all right so far this season, but they've started with a bit of a stutter. Like I say, Blackburn last week were outstanding. I thought Cantwell absolutely ran the show for them, and if they can get him on the ball again this weekend at home against Norwich, who were
the whole team, right?
Short of confidence, yeah, the old team as well, yeah. It's that sort of vibe about it, isn't it? I thought Hedges was fantastic last weekend as well. He got himself into some really, really good positions. Like you say, we did look a little bit open at the back with a young kid starting at centre half, who's it was his debut, and to come in and a bit of a baptism of fire for him, bless him. But no, I think Blackburn have what's the words I'm looking for? What's the words I'm looking for? I'm not sure how much they can take from last week. Let's put it that way. But Norwich, good acid test for them. Like I say, they're about the same place in the league. Feels like a bit of a toss-up, really. I think obviously both teams have showed they could score goals, but they've both been kind of vulnerable to counter-attacks, and they've shown themselves a little bit vulnerable at the back. I think it'll be an open game. Goals at both ends. I've gone for a score draw. I've gone 2-2.
Well, I'm going to ignore what I've seen this season and go with what I thought before the season. And I'm going to say Norwich are going to win away from home against Blackburn. Blackburn, I'm just not a believer. I know they beat Hull last week, but I'm not sure how good you guys are. I think Norwich will come good, even without, even with the players they've lost. They've still, they've still got Josh Sargent up front. Like, I don't see Blackburn being able to live with him. They did not look good against them. I mean, Lyndon Dykes scored against them. No offense, I love Lyndon Dykes, but he's not a big goal scorer, and he scored on the counter attack against them with his feet, not even with his head. What do you think, Josh? Like, Josh Sargent is a different beast, man. Like, they're not going to be able to live with him. That's just how
interesting if they can actually keep hold of him. Is there any rumours of him getting a move? Or
there was rumours of him going to Germany, but I think if they sell Nunes, they probably don't need to. From what I gather, he wanted to, like, he didn't want to go particularly. He wasn't that keen on moving to Germany. I think he probably quite likes it in England. It probably isn't too long before he gets a move to like a lower half Premier League or promotion chasing championship team. Maybe he thought Norwich was that, and maybe they still are. And if they are to be, they're going to need to win this weekend. We will move on to like, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think this game's going to be very pretty, and it's going to be Millwall versus Wrexham. This is going to be a grind.
Yeah, it sounds like it does, doesn't it? I mean, Millwall have started pretty well, though, doesn't it? I mean, it doesn't sound the most exciting of games, does it? Millwall against Wrexham. Obviously, Wrexham not started the Championship how they would have liked. They're still splashing the cash around, I read today that Callum Doyle deal could cost them towards 8 million.
With a buyback clause, right, as well.
That's a lot. That's a lot of money. I mean, Hollywood millions coming in handy for them still. Obviously, they've shown they can score. Wrexham. Their defence is going to be a bit of a concern for them. I think Millwall at home, organised team, hard, horrible team to break down. I just think they're going to have too much for Wrexham, surely, this weekend. Millwall, I've got them 3-1.
Interesting thing about Millwall is that's 8th in the table and on 6 points after 3 games, and they've got a negative goal difference. They are not free-flowing going forwards. They are, as I meant, they're attritional, they are grindy, but they are a seasoned championship team. Like, they are if you beat, I think of them as a gatekeeper. Like, if you're better than Millwall, you are one of the best teams in the division. If you can go to the Den and win, that is a statement result. That is one of the hardest away days in the division. One of everyone's least favorite games to go and play is Millwall away. Wrexham kind of need a result. They've started really badly, and they have, like, if I was on 1 point after 3 games as Phil Parkinson, and I was like, well, we got 1 game before the international break. I really need a win. The absolute last game I would pick would be Millwall away. That is
literally being thrown to the Lions at the Den.
Yes. I would rather play Ipswich away. I'd rather play Coventry away. I'd rather play Birmingham away. I'd rather play anyone than
because
Millwall.
Those games are a bit of a pressure off, aren't they? They're a bit of a free hit. Whereas like Millwall, it's going to be a tough game. They're not going to give anybody an easy game down there. It's just
horrible to play. Like, in the nicest way, because I don't mean this as an insult to Millwall. I mean this as a compliment, isn't it? They are a miserable team to play against. They will 100%. Make this so difficult for Wrexham. And I think Millwall will come away with a 1-0 win. I don't think it will be I think it will be relatively comfortable as a 1-0, but I don't think they're going to go and blow them away. That's my
I
read.
just
But
think
yeah, last game.
Wrexham like to come forward, don't they? They leave themselves open and they've conceded a lot of goals. I think obviously the flip side to that is obviously Millwall, like you've already said. Where did you say they were? 8th in the table with minus goal difference. That's
Yes.
crackers.
Yeah, they've scored 3 and conceded 4, and they've won 2 and lost 1.
Well, that's Millwall all over, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I foresee a close Millwall win. I don't think they're going to blow away, but I think they will win. One team who might blow somebody away this weekend, I don't want to be too mean, but it'd be Coventry away to Oxford United. Coventry obviously flying high, top scorers in the division by a mile, perhaps unsurprisingly, averaging 4 goals a game against an Oxford team who haven't won yet. And haven't even got a point yet, I should say. Conceded 5, which is, it's not too bad, but they're not really scoring goals. This is a toughie. This is a tough one for Oxford. This is probably not when you get in your first points.
Coventry have played 1 game this season where they haven't scored, and that was against us. And I've already said about how concerned I was about concerned about how open we are at the back, and Coventry couldn't even score against us. So maybe I'm wrong on that one.
12 in 3 games, and they haven't scored in one of them. Yeah.
It's a mismatch on paper, this, isn't it? I mean, they're on fire. They're absolutely on fire. 5 and 7 since that opening day. Oxford obviously, alongside Sheffield United, the only team in the league to not have a point, lost all 3 games. Coventry flying, massive win against QPR last weekend. They'd have been disappointed to have conceded, at the end when they were 7-0 up. So, I mean, QPR. Oxford, they'll have been disappointed to have conceded late against us. That could have given them the point. Obviously, they lost at home to Portsmouth on the opening day. Again, those two fixtures are the type of fixtures that they'll have been looking at to have got points from. They're certainly not going to be looking at the Coventry game and thinking, yeah, we'll get something against those guys, especially after their start. I can't see Oxford being able to contain Coventry this weekend. I think it's going to be another tough afternoon for them. I think Coventry continue their impressive goal scoring start, and they go to Oxford and win 3-0.
Yeah. So what I'll say is that Coventry's 7 goals last game. It came from it was like a freakishly low expected goals and not that many shots. It was like a freak result where they just finished everything, which doesn't happen every week. It doesn't matter who you are. You don't finish every chance every week. And so you look at you look at that 7, you go, okay, maybe, that's one off. But they scored 5 the week before. You look at that and you go,
away from home as well.
Is there something I'm missing? And yes, there probably is. I think this Cov team might just be the best team in the division at the moment. We'll see how it lands in a month's time after, I think Ipswich and Southampton will power up a little bit.
Yeah.
Oxford they're not very good. I really thought they were going to be better than this. I watched them when they came to our place, and they played more football than I was expecting. They weren't I was expecting them to be more direct, more ugly, and they played football. They just didn't do it very well, and that's worse.
It surprised me at how they just left themselves so open. That's what surprised me. I mean, they seem to go forward when they get them long throw opportunities or them set pieces, and I just can't believe how many men they've got forward, and then they just leave themselves so open at the back. And I think if they do that this weekend against Coventry, who knows what score this is going to be?
Yeah, I foresee. I'm going to be conservative. I'm going to say it's a 2-0 Cov victory. I think Oxford, for their sins, they haven't been blown out yet. They've quote unquote only conceded 5 in 3 games. I think Cov will find it a little harder than they did last week, but I don't see any result other than a Cov win, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll move on to, again, there's a bit more in the balance. 2 teams who've impressed us, I think probably both, which is Portsmouth and Preston North End. Preston, absolutely electric start on 7 points after 3 games, big wins. But Portsmouth at home are a very dangerous team, and they've also got a win under their belt, a win and a draw. Obviously, the loss sandwiched in between, but like I'm, this is a difficult away day. Portsmouth away is famously a difficult away day. Preston North End, if they win this, we start thinking of them as outsiders for playoffs potentially.
Yeah, you can't disagree with it. I mean, the one thing I keep thinking about was our preview episode at the start of the season when we both said how horrible Preston were, and we just were like, yeah, awful team, don't like them. The typical Championship team, nah, not interested. I mean, fair play to them. I mean, to get results against, consecutive results against Leicester and Ipswich, that's no mean feat. That's no mean feat at all. And if they can go down and back it up down to Fratton Park this weekend, we've all got to sit up and take notice of Preston. Those two wins are fantastic. Nobody predicted that. Fair play to them. Cracking start to the season. It is one that could go either way, just because of Pompey being at home. They're both well organised, tough to break down teams. I think the crowd at Fratton Park will give Pompey a lift, as it always does. I just think Preston are going to be too hard to break down. I've got a low score draw here. I've gone one apiece.
I've got a feeling that Portsmouth are going to win. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I could base it on any logic. I just got this feeling that Portsmouth are going to win. They are so good at home, and Preston, they've got these 2 big wins, and I've seen so many times where you get those 2 big wins and then you get a tough away day against a quote-unquote lesser team, and you can't translate it because it's going to be a very different style of game for Preston. They're not going to be able to play the same way against Pompey as they did against Leicester and as they did against Ipswich. I just got a feeling Portsmouth, there's something about Portsmouth I just like. I like watching them play. I think they're dangerous. I think they're difficult. In some ways, this is almost a harder game than last week because it's a really hard place to go, and maybe it's just my bias because I didn't think Preston were this good, and maybe I'm just refusing to believe it. Maybe I'm just coping. But
the one thing I will say there though is obviously Pompey at home and with that Fratton Park crowd, maybe it will be quite a similar game to how they've sort of started the season. Obviously coming forward, they're going to be confident. They want to entertain that Fratton Park crowd. Maybe Preston will face a situation where they've experienced a similar sort of game so far this season, where they've had to soak up a bit of pressure, and then bang, Osmatic just pops up again with that with them goals that he just keeps scoring.
Yeah, he just scores. He's one of those guys where he's just a banker to score every week. Obviously, he's not a banker to score every week, but if you had to pick a guy who's going to score every week, you just you'd look towards him as one of your choices. I don't know what else he does, but you want to go in the end of a cross, you want to go on the end of a through ball. It's him.
He's a boy.
He's a poacher. And we will move on. Then we got 2 games left. The 2 that we've decided are at the bottom of the rankings this week. I think this should probably be a running theme. It's Sheffield Wednesday versus Swansea. However, big win in the cup for Sheffield Wednesday. A little bit of goodwill, a little bit of feel good factor running around the club. They don't
feel good factor might be a stretch.
I'm just trying to build it up a little bit. There's a little bit of good feeling going around the club now, in the sense that they got a win with what was a rotated squad, if I remember rightly. They don't really have a squad.
That's my concern. Is have they put too much into that dismantling of Leeds in the week? We know how difficult that start's been. But they've got a point. They've got a point so far this season, and nobody expected that. So they've got one.
It's more than Sheffield United have.
It is more than Sheffield United have, and they've got a chance here to push on and back that win against Leeds up this week. Swansea. I don't want to upset James. there is team, and they're just a bit boring, aren't they? I just don't. They're not much to watch. I just think they need to find a little bit of consistency, don't they? Swansea. I think they've shown a little bit more quality than Sheff Wednesday had this season, but does that take a real lot? I think they'll probably just edge this one. Sheff Wednesday probably put a lot into that in midweek. Like I said, they don't have much depth in that squad. There's probably going to be 6, 7, 8 players in that team playing again. Swansea 1-0.
Yeah, it's not going to be high scoring. In 3 games so far, Swansea have been involved in 4 goals. Like,
well, there we go.
and they're 1-1-1. Like, they are. I mean, after 3 games, as mid-table as you can possibly get, they're not scoring loads. They're not conceding loads. They're 1 win,
boring.
1 draw, 1 loss. Yeah, I don't want to call any team boring. Swansea tend to be quite decent to watch. Yeah. But you said you didn't want to upset James. I don't think he'd even mind. I think he wasn't particularly high on Swansea going into the season. And secondly, he told me Ethan Galbraith was better than Pike Sung-ho this week. So I do want to upset him. And I'm going to say this is a 1-1.
It's 2 points for Sheffield Wednesday there.
Getting this, you're pulling away from Sheffield United. And
doubling their tally for the season.
There is one team who've been involved in even fewer goals than that. And that is Charlton, who have been in 3 games, have been involved in 2 goals, 1 for, 1 against, 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss again. They're away to a team who've been involved in a lot more goals, QPR.
Well, what do you say about QPR? They're in a crisis, aren't they? I mean, they've got 1 point. They've conceded 10 goals in 3 games. I mean, obviously, say Charlton not being involved in many goals, but they've looked hard to beat in those games. Obviously, they've lost 1-0, 1-1, 1-0, and obviously QPR's season. I know, yeah. I mean, QPR's season highlight, if you can call it that, was a 1-1 draw with Preston. So it's they've taken a point. They've taken points off Preston, who Leicester and Ipswich couldn't do that. The Championship's bonkers, isn't it? There's no hiding from that 7-1 defeat last weekend. There's just no hiding from it at all. I think the frailties are a massive concern for them. They've obviously signed Isaac Hayden again this week to try and bolster that midfield. Charlton are just so hard to break down, and they can hit on the break. I just think Charlton will be looking to exploit them weaknesses at Loftus Road, and I think they come away with the 3. I think they come away with the 3 points, and they get a 1-0 win.
I think the unbreakable wall of Charlton's defense is better than the leaky faucet, I should say, of QPR.
That's it.
Yeah, I was very American. I don't know why I said that.
Is this a plumbing analogy because of the Mario brothers? Is that what the plumbing analogy is all about?
Yeah, and the American saying was because of Tom Brady and Tom Wagner and how
of course
have been, Go watch the documentary, guys. I think this will be a 0-0. Charlton is so good defensively, but I think QPR are going to look to keep it tight as well. Obviously, after last week, they're going to be like, look, we first things first, let's keep a clean sheet. And Charlton aren't going to go there and they're not going to look to break that down too much. Then if they score, it'll be on the counter, I should suspect. And I don't think QPR are going to give away too much. This is going to be a cagey affair. The reason it's bottom of the thing is because I just don't think this will be a very fun game to watch. But if Charlton get an early goal, that could be a really fun game to watch.
It could well be, because you think that they're going to come forward and how many goals could they concede? I mean, it just doesn't bear thinking about for QPR.
But this is a team who don't score goals.
Oh, yeah.
It's a catch-22. One team concede loads and the other team doesn't score and also doesn't concede. It's a nailed-on 0-0, which means it will probably be 4-3 QPR or something. But I'm going to go 0-0.
Brave.
I don't think it's ever brave predicting 0-0 in a game with Charlton in it. And this is no disrespect for Charlton. They came up as the team from the playoffs. They were, the third best team, I think, second best team in League One. But the table said they were third best team in League One last season. They're doing what they have to do to survive. They've changed their style a little bit, which is admirable because they seem to be doing it well. And we might see the little bit more creativity and invention later on in the season. But for now, they're going to grind out the points they can get early on. Another ground out point here away from home would not be a bad thing at all.
No,
good time to play QPR.
Definitely a good time to play them.
That's every game this weekend covered in 45 minutes.
Let's see if we can laugh at us this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna look stupid on at least 3 of these games.
Yeah, bring it on.
That's a final prediction for you all. We will catch you all next week. It's been the Championship Lowdown. I've been Elliot. You've been Ollie.
I have indeed. See you next week.
See you all next week.